Hey everyone, I'm Honey Doggo, and today is my first video of 2025. I got a bit of an update, but that will be at the end. Anyway, if you read the title, you will know what this video is going to be about. I started my webcomic in late September and posted my first 3 episodes on October 30th. I have posted 4 episodes, and episode 5 has a scheduled date for release after I take my break. I took a break for a few reasons, such as giving myself time to finish my finals for the fall quarter of college, taking time to enjoy the holidays, and giving myself extra time to make changes in my life. That last bit is important for multiple reasons. Regardless, I'm taking my break, talked to some friends, and reflected a lot. While taking my break, I took some time to reflect on my webcomic, my work process, and my goals. As much as I know I should have had these reflections before making my webcomic, I'm glad I'm learning this stuff now before episode 5 comes out and not when episode 20 is out. I'm still early enough to make these changes, so let's talk about my goals when making my webcomic first, my work process second, and my webcomic last. When making my webcomic, I had a lot of goals going in, and now I reflected on it. I have a much clearer idea about these goals, and I split these goals into 2 groups: reasonable and wishful. My reasonable goals with my first webcomic are to learn how to get better at writing, push myself to draw things I normally don't draw, and see if I like making a webcomic. I considered these reasonable because I could achieve these goals sooner, as I actually need to make and continue the comic. For each episode I work on and look over, I'm learning something new about and what I need to do. The goals are more tangible, which is what I'm saying. And while I think the goals I categorize as wishful are tangible, it's just not realistic for where I'm at right now. Well, what are the wishful goals? It's building a large audience, making money, and gaining attention as a creator. Now, I did say my wishful goals are tangible, so I'm not saying these are stupid goals. However, I'm considering it wishful because of my expectations when making these goals. When making these goals, I was expecting a huge fan base that liked my work, making a Patreon or Ko-fi and making a lot of money, or being a big, well-liked and known creator. These are dreams I know a lot of artists and creators want, and to an extent, I still want these things. But I had to be brutally honest with myself. Where I'm at now, I can't achieve these goals because they're too big for me. I realized I needed to focus on the reasonable goals first. Doing so could help me achieve those wishful goals, but for now, those goals are for future Honey Doggo. Being honest about that sucks because I really do like the idea of my wishful goals. I know I'm not stupid for wanting these things, but I feel stupid for those goals being a part of the many reasons for making my webcomic in the first place. Especially now that I have actually started working on the webcomic, it gave me a reality check I definitely needed. So while I do feel stupid, I'm glad I got time to reflect and have a clearer idea of what I want my overall goals to be. I even made a new goal for myself, and it's to have fun regardless of what happens. Having fun will make the journey I'm on with my webcomic a lot easier and leave me more satisfied. However, with this realization, I also came to another realization. I needed to reflect on my work process. My work process was something I tried to plan before making the comic, and now that I actually have made 4 episodes, I realize a lot about how I work on things and how I should schedule my time working on it to complement the time I need for schoolwork. I realized that I need to have something more structured to keep myself on track, but also keep up with school and other plans I have. I'm very spontaneous when it comes to feeling motivated, especially when it comes to working on personal projects. When I made my first 4 episodes, I realized that when I finished schoolwork, I would jump to working on my webcomic with little to no break. I also noticed that when I was fixing some of the script for episode 5, I started feeling less interested and more tired working on my webcomic. I later found out I was dealing with a bit of burnout, and I was putting most of my free time from school into my comic alone. This was a bit of a problem, and while I do need to spend a good chunk of my time on my webcomic when I'm not focusing on school, not giving myself time to enjoy things outside of it when I needed to relax was negatively affecting my perception of my webcomic. So on top of working on the webcomic, I need to get a better understanding of my schedule for college so I can properly schedule breaks to enjoy other things. As I'm trying to get out of burnout from my webcomic, I'm currently working on ways to keep myself motivated and have a more positive association with my webcomic. So I decided to make proper plans for how I could make the process of making comics easier, make proper schedules for when I'm actually in school so I can easily plan when I take breaks for myself and when I work on my comic, and also make plans to draw my OCs in silly pictures or concepts. I want to draw pictures that could help with keeping the webcomic fun, and I did a bit of that. The speed paint for this video was my attempt, a bit of fun with my OCs, which is something I should have done before. I was a fool, and now I learned my lesson the hard way. Learn from me, be more organized, and take breaks. It helps. Now that I've passed down this basic piece of wisdom, I think it's time to talk about how the reflections I've had affected how I'm moving forward with my webcomic. So now let's talk about my webcomic. For those who cares about my webcomic, it's called I Got a Secret and So Do You. It's about two roommates, Lavana and Cassia, trying to keep important secrets about themselves from their friends and each other as they try to live a normal life. Since this is my first time doing something like this, I made some mistakes in my first 3 episodes. I realized I didn't do a good job capturing the attention of the audience. I also realized the style of storytelling I was working with wasn't good for the story I wanted to tell. I knew what I wanted to happen in my story when making it, and I followed through with it in a bad way. I was following the and then style of storytelling. I didn't give ideas I had time to breathe and make something more meaningful. In fact, I had to rewrite a lot of my future episodes to allow actions to have consequences instead of some stuff that's important to the plot. I think this realization will be beneficial for the story going forward. In a way, I'm regretful I didn't take more time to figure out how I wanted to execute things, but I'm incredibly grateful that I just made my comic when I was satisfied at the time, because I wouldn't have realized what I wanted if I waited. I know I shouldn't be negative about a product I made and want people to read, but I think the things I'm learning that are good or bad are worth sharing. On top of now having clearer goals to work on and plans to make a better work process for my webcomic and knowing what I want from my webcomic story, I also learned that no matter what, the mistakes I make with this story are things I can apply going forward with said story and any future stories I want to tell. After all, I made this story with the knowledge that I am a beginner at making webcomics. I know this wasn't the most detailed topic for a video, I just want to give insight into what I learned. It's also kind of hard to be detailed when most of my issues are tied to school, personal life, or story elements that are not public yet. However, I still want to talk about it. Also, if my little criticism of my own webcomic hasn't turned you off to my webcomic, you will find it on Webtoon, Tapas, and my new Tumblr blog I made just for my webcomic. I'm still looking for other platforms to post it on, like Manikami. Until then, I plan for episode 5 to come out on February 23rd, 2025, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Links will be in the description for both my webcomic or other social media platforms I have. Before I go, I do want to talk about that update I mentioned at the beginning of the video. As I'm making this video, I'm working on scripts for other videos so I can have an easier time making more videos for this channel. Especially since I want to start posting videos monthly on top of my webcomic and college. I want to get ahead of the YouTube game so I can have less on my plate on that front. My plan for this channel is to post video on the first Saturday of the month, and if I can, post shorts every other Wednesday. However, I will prioritize long-form content over short-form, so I might be inconsistent with shorts. Now that I have that out of the way, I hope you all have a good day or night. Bye-bye!